do the demo. Symmetry obsessed. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Could I just have your attention for a few moments before we start the ceremony? Welcome to the University of London. Welcome to Senate House. And we'll shortly be starting the School of Advanced Study graduation ceremony for 2025. But first of all, we're going to show you exactly what you need to do today. So you know, we'll give you a full demonstration. So, your name will be called. Your name will be called Martin Fuller. You make your way across the stage, you remove your hat, bow, shake hands with the Vice-Chancellor, and make your way across the stage to collect your certificate. You smile for the camera will be looking your way, and you make your way back to your original seat, okay? So that's gentlemen, but ladies, slightly different. Ladies, you move before the Vice-Chancellor, Alicia Aforai. You stand before the Vice-Chancellor, but you do not remove your hat. Keep your hats firmly on. You bow, you shake hands with the Vice-Chancellor, you make your way across the stage, you shake hands with the Dean, okay? Now this one's quite different. This one's one minute just slightly different. I'm going to need a Vice-Chancellor. Rachel, can I ask you to be the Vice-Chancellor? Honorary Vice-Chancellor for the day. So, PhDs, now, you've all been nicely arranged. You've got your hoods very neatly and nicely arranged for your photographs. And now I'm going to tell you to take them off. So please take your hoods off. Undo your hoods. Take your hat and hoods off. You need to have your hoods undone. Hoods off. You'll have them back on for the photos afterwards, don't worry. But for this ceremony, you want your hoods off. So, for doctoral degrees, again, the title of your thesis will be called, so for today we're having the psychological and physical stress of organising a graduation ceremony with our supervisor, Miss Elaine Walters. Your name will be called Conall Brennan. You move towards the Vice-Chancellor, you take off your hat, you bow and you shake hands. You kneel on the cushioned platform. It's quite fussy, it's quite fun. The Vice-Chancellor will take your hood and will hood you and bestow your PhD. You stand. You shake hands with the Vice-Chancellor. Big smile for the camera, once again. You move across the stage. You shake hands with the Dean. As you leave the platform, you return your hat and you make your way back to the original seat. Do you want to see it again? You okay? Do you want to see it one more time? One more time. Conall. It's been a long time coming, so you can take your time. Take your moment. Do not rush across the stage. Take as long as you like. Conall Brennan. You make your way across the stage, you remove your hat and you bow. You shake hands with the Vice-Chancellor. You kneel on the velvet cushioned platform. You offer the Vice-Chancellor your hood. The Vice-Chancellor will hood you. You smile for the camera. You shake hands. You make your way across to the Dean and shake hands once again. And you return your hat as you leave the platform. Are we okay? All okay? Don't worry about it, it'll be fine. But do take your time. Do take your time. For your master's graduates, we've actually got your certificates on the stage today, so take care of them. Don't lose them. We always have a few left behind at the end of the day. Please take care of them. They're your actual master's certificates here today, so take care of them today. And a few other ordinary announcements to follow. So please make sure you've turned off your mobile phones. If you haven't done your mobile phones yet, please do that. Easy to forget. Please turn that off. In the event of emergency, we'll direct you. There's exits to the right, exits to the left, but we'll direct you in the event of emergency. No filming, please. You can take photographs, no flash photography, no filming. The event is being live streamed, and there'll be the opportunity for photos at the end of the day outside on the ceremonial steps as well, but no filming, please. We're going to ask you to stand in a moment when the Vice-Chancellor's procession comes in, so we'll ask you to stand, and we'll ask you to stand again as they exit. Short musical interlude in the middle there. Our musicians will play a short musical interlude. Stay seated. It's not to leave the hall. It's just a short musical interlude to give for a small break. And as I say, chance for group photographs at the end. We'll call you institute by institute. So that's the grads. Now this is for the guests. Now the guests, the one thing you've got to do is clap everyone. Please don't wait to the end. Clap each and every graduate as they walk across the stage as loudly as you possibly can. I know as you're getting towards the end, your hands will get tired. Keep going and please clap as loudly as you possibly can. So we'll start in a few minutes. Thank you and enjoy the day.
Good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, honoured guests, I now call upon Professor Wendy Thompson, Vice-Chancellor of the University of London.
Welcome, and thank you, Elaine. Dean, colleagues, distinguished guests, proud families and friends, and of course, most importantly, our graduates. It's an honor to stand before you today as we celebrate the achievements of the graduating students of the School of Advanced Study. Throughout its history, the University of London has championed the transformative power of education. For almost 190 years, it has remained dedicated to expanding access to higher education and advancing human understanding. Our commitment to the humanities is at the very heart of that mission. Through the study of history, literature, philosophy, and other disciplines, we explore the depth and breadth of the human experience, gaining insights into who we are, where we come from, and what we aspire to. The humanities are not just an academic pursuit. They are the foundation of a fair and empathetic society. They remind us of our shared humanity and inspire us to imagine a better future. These are the values that the School of Advanced Study was founded upon. Established in 1994 as a national center for the promotion of research in the humanities, the school unites 8 specialist institutes spanning disciplines from classical studies to legal drafting, modern languages to historical research, and human rights to textual scholarship. Over the past 3 decades, the school has become a home for scholars who challenge conventions, push boundaries, and pioneer new models of public engagement. It's a place where ideas are exchanged, debated, and refined, and where the humanities thrive as a living, breathing endeavor. The achievements of the School of Advanced Study are many and varied. It has fostered collaborations that transcend disciplines and borders, bringing together scholars from around the world to address some of the most pressing questions of our time. Its research outputs have enriched public discourse, informed policymaking, and deepened our collective understanding of the world. This value has been continually recognized by Research England, who last year reconfirmed the school's special status, pledging an additional 5 years of financial support. This will fund an ambitious new strategy for the school, which includes a major advocacy program, making the case for the humanities with a wide range of stakeholders and the public. It's an exciting time for the School of Advanced Study, and I'm also heartened to see the growing number of students joining our programs. This reflects not only the school's outstanding reputation, but an increasing recognition of the importance of the humanities. And they really are more important than ever. We live in a time defined by rapid change, climate, technology, where social media and artificial intelligence shape the way we communicate, work, and even think. These developments bring immense possibilities, but also profound questions. What does it mean to be human in a digital age? How do we ensure that technology serves humanity rather than the other way around? The humanities are essential in engaging with these questions. They equip us with critical thinking skills, ethical frameworks, and historical perspectives needed to make our way in the modern world. They remind us that technology, no matter how advanced, cannot replace human creativity and empathy. To be human in a digital age is to engage with technology thoughtfully, to use it as a tool for understanding and connection, and not as a substitute for these things. The work of the School of Advanced Study is particularly vital in this context. Its research and teaching address not only the enduring questions, but also how they intersect with contemporary issues. Whether examining the ethical implications of AI, exploring the cultural impact of social media, or preserving endangered languages in a globalized world, the school is at the forefront of efforts to understand and shape the digital age. This was the subject of the inaugural National Humanities Lecture held here earlier this week in this very room, where historian, author, and filmmaker David Olusoga explored emerging ideas about humanities, heritage, and what new forms our cultural institutions might take in an increasingly interconnected world. I hope some of you had the chance to attend this thought-provoking event, which is now a vital new fixture in the school's calendar. As graduates, you are part of a community that values intellectual curiosity and creative thinking. You have engaged with complex ideas, grappled with challenging questions, and made original contributions to your field of study. Your presence here today is testament to your hard work, dedication, and passion for learning. And in celebrating your achievements, we also celebrate the values that underpin them. Your graduation is not just a personal milestone, it's a moment of pride for your families, your supervisors, and your peers. It's also a moment of hope for the future as you represent the next generation of thinkers and leaders. So as you step into the next chapter of your lives, I encourage you to keep in mind the experience you have gained here. Use your knowledge and skills to question assumptions, challenge injustice, and imagine new possibilities. Embrace the responsibility and indeed the privilege that comes with education and use it to contribute to the greater good. Whether you go on to careers in academia, public service, the arts, or any other field, I hope that the humanities will be a vital part of who you are and what you offer the world. So as you leave Senate House today, know that you are not just graduates of the School of Advanced Study, you are ambassadors for the humanities and for the University of London, part of a tradition that values knowledge and understanding. So I encourage you to stay in touch, and we look forward to seeing the remarkable contributions you will make in your chosen field. My sincere congratulations to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice-Chancellor. I now call upon Professor Joe Fox, Dean of the School of Advanced Study and Pro-Vice-Chancellor, Research and Engagement.
Vice-Chancellor, esteemed guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, to our graduating students, many, many congratulations. Undertaking advanced study requires commitment, dedication, and passion. You'll have spent many hours wrestling with complex and challenging questions, and many hours wondering whether you can answer them. You've absorbed much information, much more than you'll ever have been able to put into your final written work, but that you nonetheless needed to inform your choices and contextualize your arguments. And you'll no doubt have confronted the realization that the more you know about a subject, the more questions you have. Your education does not end today. In many ways, this is just the beginning. We also owe a special word of thanks to those who guided you in your studies, to your tutors and mentors who join you here today, and also to your friends and family who are also here to support you as you celebrate your success, just as I'm sure they've been with you every step of the way through your educational journey. All of these combined efforts are so very important. We need graduates in the humanities and social sciences more now than ever before. The challenges we face as a modern society are complex, and the solutions to them are equally complex, in need of the kinds of explanation, analysis, and creativity that the graduates of our programs bring. We need graduates who understand the human dimensions to societal problems, to confront climate change, global mobility, social injustice, human rights, poverty. We need to understand people. And in these troubled times, we need to reaffirm the values we hold and determine what kind of society we want to be. These profound and urgent questions require insight into the human condition from multiple perspectives. Our studies are about making a difference to the world, but to study the humanities and the social sciences is also about making sense of our own existence. Our disciplines help us to understand what it is to live a meaningful and purposeful life. A good education is not measured purely by the contribution it makes to our bank balances, although surely our programs tell a good story here too. It gives us perspectives on the world, encourages an open and critical mind, and helps us to understand what it is to be human. The school is proud to find itself at the heart of debates over the future of the humanities and the social sciences. We enter these debates comforted by the knowledge that we're not alone in our passion for the arts, languages, culture, history, literature, classical studies, to the law, anthropology, and sociology. It's no surprise that we turn to these disciplines at dark moments and for guidance. Turn on the television and the radio, scan a podcast series, walk into a bookshop, go to the theatre, a local museum, library, gallery. Our disciplines continue to play a critical role in our children's education. We foster their imagination. They bring communities together in local projects. They're at the centre of debates over social justice, identity, the laws that govern us in a fair society. They affect change. The humanities and social sciences are all around us, and they're woven into the fabric of the everyday. And that's why we channel our energies into pursuing new knowledge that will make a real difference, and into celebrating the humanities and social sciences confidently and proudly. We'll look to our graduates to bring these values out into the world. So my congratulations once again, and know that whatever you do, wherever you go, wherever you choose to deploy your skills and your creativity, you will always have a home here, and we'll be behind you, urging you to even greater success, achievements, and personal happiness. Congratulations.
The presentation of graduands will now commence.
Vice-Chancellor, I beg leave to present the following graduands.
Graduands of the Institute of Advanced Legal Studies awarded the LLM in Drafting Legislation, Regulation and Policy. Vato Inge, awarded with distinction. David Ewer, awarded with distinction. Graduate of the Institute of Advanced Legal Studies, awarded a Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis entitled Chased Away from Home, Bushwives of Sierra Leone, Patriarchy and Transitional Justice, supervised by Professor Alexandra Zantheki and Professor Avram Sher, Ufroma Lamikanra. Graduate from the Institute of Classical Studies, awarded a Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis entitled Wealth and Power in the Imperial Republic, supervised by Professor Greg Wolfe and Professor Henrik Moritzen. Giuseppe Vicocelli. Graduands of the Institute of Commonwealth Studies awarded the MA in Understanding and Securing Human Rights. Maria Montserrat Escudero, awarded with distinction. Francis Andanema. Emmanuel Valentine Onu. Cheryl Vaccini. Graduands of the Institute of Commonwealth Studies awarded the Master of Arts in Human Rights. Jessica Sisley, awarded with distinction. Philippa Stewart, awarded with distinction. Graduand of the Institute of Commonwealth Studies, awarded a Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis entitled China's Ideational Media Influence on Press Freedom in Africa, an examination of the role of agency in the Ghanaian context, supervised by Dr. Corinne Lennox and Professor Philip Murphy. Richard Duomo. Graduand from the Digital Humanities Research Hub, awarded a Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis entitled Archiving Social Media, a comparative study of the practices, obstacles, and opportunities related to the development of social media archives, supervised by Professor Jane Winters and Dr. Naomi Wells. Beatrice Canelli. Graduand from the Digital Humanities Research Hub, awarded a Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis entitled Collections as Networked Images, the reuse of the Science Museum Group collections in the form of digital images through social media, supervised by Professor Jane Winters and Mr. John Stack. Rhiannon Lewis. Graduand from the Digital Humanities Research Hub, awarded a Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis entitled The Uses of History in the Media Coverage of the European Union, 2004 to 2019, supervised by Professor Jane Winters and Mr. Martin Steer. Daniela Major. Graduands of the Institute of English Studies awarded the Master of Arts in History of the Book. Lucy Bleschner. Adelaide Pashley. Jeff Stainton. Samantha McBain, awarded with distinction. Zachary Larson, awarded with distinction. Graduand of the Institute of English Studies, awarded a Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis entitled Women's Contributions to the Medieval Manuscript Trade in America and Britain, 1900 to 1945, supervised by Dr. Laura Cleaver and Professor Claire Lees. Natalia Fantetti. Graduand of the Heathrop College, awarded a Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis entitled Christian Spirituality and Muslim Mysticism in the Theological Thought and Life of Bishop Kenneth Cragg, 1913 to 2012, in dialogue with Dag Hammarskjöld, supervised by Dr. Anthony O'Mahony. David Derrick. Graduand from the Heathrop College, awarded a Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis entitled Enhanced Agency Theodicy, an Eschatological Solution to the Problem of Evil, supervised by Dr. Elizabeth Burns and Dr. Peter Gallagher. Robbie Hock. Graduand from the Institute of Historical Research, awarded a Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis entitled Valuing the Child, Philanthropy, Health and Leisure in London Childhood, the Children's Country Holidays Fund, 1880 to 1939, supervised by Professor Martin Gorski and Dr. Sue Hawkins. Helen Strong. Graduand from the Institute of Languages, Cultures and Societies, awarded a Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis entitled Ernst Bloch's Messianism, the Inheritance of a Theological Trope and its Political Philosophical Significance, supervised by Dr. Johann Siebers and Professor Charles Burdett. Federico Fellari. Graduand from the Institute of Languages, Cultures and Societies, awarded a Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis entitled Negotiating Belonging in Exile, a study of diaries of Kindertransport refugees, supervised by Professor Godella Weiss Sussex and Dr. Andrea Hamill. Monja Stahlberger. Graduands of the Warburg Institute awarded the MA in Art History, Curatorship and Renaissance Culture. Francesco Alessandrini Lupia, awarded with distinction. Abby Brown. Kaylee Efford. Miles Fletcher, awarded with distinction. Ludovica Fracassi, awarded with distinction. Sophia Harrington, awarded with distinction. Gabriela Hernandez Lugo. Danielle Jump, awarded with distinction. Asha Cohen. Sivan Maus, awarded with distinction. Anne Morehouse, awarded with distinction. Kate Mullaney. Anna Prattley, awarded with distinction. Ludovica Stadarini, awarded with distinction. Ningxing Wang. Tom McKinnon, awarded with distinction. Graduates of the Warburg Institute, awarded the MA in Cultural, Intellectual and Visual History. Henry Addison, awarded with distinction. Anna Bruick Seeley, awarded with distinction. Jessica Jordan, awarded with distinction. Ian Karp, awarded with distinction. Eric Reeves, awarded with distinction. Anna Ticehurst, awarded with distinction. Ben Wang Zhu, awarded with distinction. Yifan Zhang, awarded with distinction. Graduate of the Warburg Institute, awarded the postgraduate certificate in art history, curatorship and Renaissance culture. Alana Barton, awarded with distinction. Graduates of the Warburg Institute, awarded a Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis entitled How to Be Things with Words, Ibn Arabi's Theory and Practice of Language, supervised by Professor Charles Burnett and Dr. Kazuyo Murata, Beatrice Bottomley. Graduate from the Warburg Institute, awarded a Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis entitled The Book of the Science of the Sound, Geomancy between divination, prognostics and psychology in medieval Europe, supervised by Professor Charles Burnett and Professor John Tresh. Ariana Dalla Costa. Graduand from the Warburg Institute, awarded a Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis entitled Convivial Humanism, Giovanni Pontano, 1426 to 1503, on the art of living together, supervised by Dr. Sarah Miglietti and Dr. Alessandro Scaffi, George Brocklehurst. Graduand from the Warburg Institute, awarded a Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis entitled The Passions of the Soul, Natural Philosophy and Medicine, Theories of Emotion in 17th Century England, supervised by Dr. Sarah Miglietti and Professor John Tresh. Daniel Samuel. That now concludes the presentation of graduates from the School of Advanced Study. Thank you. I'd now like to welcome Zachary Larson, one of our graduating master's students, back to the stage to give an address on behalf of our graduates.
Thank you. It's been an immense pleasure and privilege to study the history of the book at the Institute of English Studies. I chose to study the course because I was fascinated by how books and manuscripts have carried ideas and shaped history. I wanted to learn about how the story unfolded and also what role these books and manuscripts still play in libraries, archives, and museums, and in commerce. I applied to the IES because it offers the best course of its kind in the world. It combines serious academic work on the one hand with real practical experience on the other. The teachers are experts in their field, and the resources you're given are excellent. Being based at Senate House, you're just a few floors from one of the most interesting and eclectic collections in the country. And being based in London, you have access to so many other great libraries and archives, as well as some of the best rare bookshops and auction houses in the world. Moreover, I had the good fortune to be on the course with classmates from a wide variety of backgrounds, all of them passionate about books, and our conversations outside of class were always interesting. A particular highlight was the dissertation. I wrote this on illegal Catholic Bibles printed on the continent and smuggled into Protestant England after the Reformation. I looked at how they were produced, how they were distributed, who read them, and with what consequences. My research took me to many archives and libraries, some of them not normally accessible, and I gained invaluable skills. I'd like to thank everyone at the IES and at the School of Advanced Study more broadly, particularly those who run the course, Cynthia Johnston, Andrew Nash, and Michael Larrant, and my dissertation supervisor, David Pearson. I'd also like to thank Maggs Brothers, the rare books firm who sponsored my studies. Maggs are among the oldest and most renowned antiquarian booksellers in the world. But they're also looking to the future. And by setting up the Maggs Scholarship at the IES, of which I was lucky to be the first recipient, they are encouraging a new generation of book historians, curators, and dealers. As well as covering tuition, the scholarship comes with the chance to intern at Maggs over the summer. I'm extremely grateful to have had this opportunity. Everyone at the firm was unfailingly generous with their time and expertise. The books I was able to work with were extraordinary, and I learned a huge amount. Perhaps most importantly, I had tremendous fun. I finished my internship with the strong desire to carry on in the trade, which I'm happy to say I've been able to do. I'd like to thank everyone at Maggs, particularly Fuchsia Vorenberg and Ed Maggs, for making this wonderful opportunity possible. Finally, I've been the beneficiary of the most supportive of parents. So please join me in thanking them and all the families and friends in this room and elsewhere who have helped us through our studies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zachary. I'd now like to welcome Monja Stahlberger, one of our graduating Doctor of Philosophy students, back to the stage to give an address on behalf of the research graduates.
Dear Vice-Chancellor, dear academics and researchers, dear honorary degree recipients, dear family and friends, dear fellow graduating students. When I first arrived at the School of Advanced Studies to begin my PhD in exile studies, I couldn't have imagined the impact my time here would have on me, and I'm honoured to speak now on behalf of us research students. As we gather here today, I'm reminded of how specific spaces and places can shape our experience and identities. My own work has deepened my understanding of the significance of community and belonging, themes that also resonate throughout our time here at SAS, albeit in a very different context. Through my research and diaries written by Kindertransport refugees, children who fled National Socialist Germany and found refuge in Britain, I've gained deep insights into the complex experiences of young people forced to leave their homes, families, and everything familiar behind. Their written accounts reveal not just trauma and loss, but also demonstrate remarkable agency in how they navigated their new lives and constructed their senses of identity and belonging. This work has not only shaped my understanding of notions of belonging, but has also highlighted the crucial importance of supportive communities and finding your own voice. Reflecting on these insights now, I realise how fortunate we are to have a supportive community here at the School of Advanced Study. The path of a research degree can feel solitary, especially since many of us had to begin their studies or conclude them during the pandemic. Looking around this room today, I see the incredible diversity of our research community, which has come together at so many different occasions, from postgraduate conferences to social and academic events here at the school. I see international students like me who have made London their academic home, distance learners who have connected with us from across the globe, those balancing their research with full-time work or family responsibilities, and students who have joined us at different stages of their careers. Each of us has faced unique challenges, yet here at the School of Advanced Study, we found something truly special, a vibrant community that transforms individual scholarly pursuit into a collective adventure of discovery. From my involvement with society to representing our student body on the academic board, I've witnessed firsthand how our institutes and research centre create an extraordinarily rich intellectual tapestry and how many opportunity this unique institution and University of London can offer us. Our community extends beyond our individual research areas and circumstances. Whether we are exploring legal scholarship, literary analysis, human rights advocacy, historical research, philosophical inquiry, or digital innovations in the humanities, we've created connection that transcend not just disciplinary boundaries, but also physical distances and diverse life circumstances. As research students, we don't just receive an education at SAS. We become part of a legacy of scholarly excellence and intellectual curiosity. We were able to learn about a variety of discourses in the humanity and the position of the humanities itself. But we were also able to actively engage in advancing this humanities research and helping to shape our student experience. The skills we've developed, the relationships we forged, and the confidence we've gained will stay with us long after our time here. Now, on behalf of all of us, it is my pleasure to thank everyone who has made our time here the most rewarding years. The library staff, whose expertise and dedication have been invaluable in navigating vast resources, deserve our deepest gratitude. To our remarkable professional support staff, whose behind-the-scenes effort ensured that we could focus wholly on our research, your commitment to creating a supportive environment has not gone unnoticed, and we appreciate your constant help and support. To our academic supervisors and all researchers at the institutes who have challenged and guided us, your mentorship and scholarly input have been transformative. Thank you to everyone, especially those who I forgot to mention, who have contributed to making our experience at SAS not just academically enriching, but personally transformative. To my fellow research students, from art historians to legal experts, from cultural theorists to digital humanists, your passion for knowledge, unwavering support, and cherished friendship have made our journey here truly extraordinary. Together, we carry forward not just our research findings, but also the spirit of community and collaboration that makes this institution, the School of Advanced Study, so special. Thank you and congratulations to us all.
Thank you, Monia. I'm going to ask the graduating students to maybe stand and give some applause to the academic staff here today. Thank you. Thank you. Well, there will now be a short musical interlude performed by Megan Yang and Felix Pascoe from the Royal Academy of Music. You're requested to remain in your seats during the performance, as the ceremony will restart immediately after this finishes. Thank you. Thank you, Megan and Felix. We now move on to the conferment of the honorary degrees. I now call upon Professor Catherine Harlow, Director of the Institute of Classical Studies, to give the oration for Victoria Brignall, a recipient of this year's honorary degree.
Vice-Chancellor, in accordance with the Charter, Statutes and Ordinances of the University, I present to you for the award of the degree of Doctor of Literature honoris causa, Victoria Brignall. Here in the School of Advanced Study, we believe passionately in the public value of the humanities, the power of the perspectives that our disciplines can offer, grounded as they are in study of the deep past and human thought and action in its diversity across times and places, to address the challenges of the present and future. We strive to exemplify this in our own research and engagement, and to train and develop the next generation through our postgraduate teaching and supervision. In presenting Victoria Brignall for the degree of Doctor of Literature, we seek to recognise and honour her contributions to the humanities and to public life in two important ways. First, for the significant contribution to public understanding of the humanities that she has made over the past quarter century as a producer of factual content on BBC National Radio. Second, for her work as a disability champion and advocate, which has brought about positive change here in London and internationally, helping to create a more human future for all. Victoria Susan Brignall was born in 1976. She attended school in Chelmsford, the Essex town that in 1920 was the site of the first ever British public radio transmission from the headquarters of the Marconi Company. She studied classics as an undergraduate at Cambridge University, followed by a postgraduate diploma in journalism from Cardiff. She joined the BBC in 1999, working her way up from graduate trainee to radio producer. Over her BBC career, Victoria has worked on high-profile radio programmes, including Women's Hour, You and Yours, and Start the Week. For the past 13 years, however, her principal work has been as one of a small team responsible for In Our Time, the long-running weekly discussion programme in which 3 experts sit down to talk in depth with Melvyn Bragg about a topic in philosophy, science, culture, history, religion, or classics. Well, here in the School of Advanced Study, we are justly proud of our Being Human Festival of the Humanities, which has been running for a decade and last year staged 230 public events across the UK and abroad. In Our Time has now run for 27 years and more than 1,000 episodes. An average of 2 million listeners tune in each Thursday morning when it broadcasts, with a further million catching up with it as a podcast. In Our Time does not limit itself to the humanities. Past episodes have treated topics ranging from mitochondria to the electron and the sun. but the programme's centre of gravity lies with the disciplines represented by many in our graduating cohort today. In Our Time is a shining example of public communication of humanities in the 21st century. It reaches a worldwide audience that is diverse in social background, educational experience, and age. I'm sure I'm not the only past guest who's contacted from time to time by grateful students too, telling me how my episode has helped them to prepare for a university seminar or an essay. Now, since Victoria's radio work occurs behind the scenes, I want to say a bit more about what it involves. The Bible contains around 800,000 words. Shakespeare's plays about the same. As many here know, a University of London PhD is awarded on the basis of a thesis of up to 100,000 words. Now, Simon Tillotson, Victoria's co-producer on In Our Time, tells me that a conservative estimate of Victoria's output for the show would be more than 2 million words. Words that have informed Melvyn Bragg's understanding of the topics that he then, with his guests, brings to countless millions around the world. Each week, the senior producer sets up phone calls with the 3 guests for the upcoming programme. For more than a decade, Victoria has made the majority of those calls. She turns these unrehearsed conversations with academics into clear, structured notes for Melvyn Bragg to digest ahead of the studio recording. She then works with him and her other colleagues to create a structure and running order for the discussion. And when the 3 guests come to the studio, Simon says, Victoria's is the first face they see as she steals them for the pleasures ahead. The intellectual and creative capacities required for this work of interviewing experts, translating and distilling their answers into the structure of an intellectually challenging yet engaging discussion are those that our subjects train, and Victoria is an accomplished practitioner. This is why her colleagues value her so highly. Melvyn Bragg himself told me that she is an extremely erudite and gallant individual whose talent and industry contribute greatly to the programme's strength. Victoria's achievements will strike many of us as all the more remarkable, considering that she has been tetraplegic since childhood. Far from holding her back, this has spurred her to make a second significant contribution to public life as a disability champion. She's been a prominent and an effective advocate for removal of the social barriers that exclude and harm disabled people in our society. She's done this through her public writing in national print media, as well as through detailed and painstaking collaborative work with local governments and charities. This includes her long tenure as Chair of Action on Disability, her patronage of charities in London and in Sri Lanka, and her past record as an ambassador for CBM International, a charity that campaigns for disabled people's access to education, healthcare, and economic opportunity around the world. Vice-Chancellor, here in the University of London, we rightly pride ourselves on our foundational ideals of inclusivity and diversity, our history of pioneers of university education for women, of distance learning, and the role our past leaders played in establishing bodies such as the Academic Assistance Council, the forerunner to today's Council for At-Risk Academics. Yet if we would claim the credit of this history, we must also acknowledge how some of our predecessors led in propagating harmful eugenic theories and social proposals that sought to deny disabled people dignity and the opportunity to lead personally fulfilling and socially productive lives. Victoria has written publicly about these chapters in British history, which she justly describes as deeply uncomfortable, disturbing, and shameful. I mention this not just because, as a community dedicated to the pursuit of humanistic knowledge, we must agree with her that even if it is painful to do so, the past must be confronted and acknowledged, but also because it places in an enlarged perspective Victoria's generous decision to come to Beveridge Hall today and accept the degree we are asking you to confer upon her. I think this also says something important about Victoria's pragmatism, her laser-like focus on the principal point, dwelling less on aspects of the past that cannot be changed than on how to make a difference in the here and now. When asked in 2015 for her advice to students seeking a career in broadcasting, Victoria responded, "You've got to be very tenacious." And it's that tenacity, together with the fearsome intellect that everyone who has worked with her remarks upon, that both strands of Victoria's public and professional service show in abundance. I suspect she might describe her disability as a strength with regard to training tenacity. In a thought-provoking blog post on the different relationship to time experienced by the disabled and able-bodied people, she wrote, "Personally, I find it hard to squander time because I'm so conscious of how much of it I have to set aside simply for being disabled. One of the reasons I choose not to wear makeup is that I simply can't be bothered to spend time putting it on when it's already taken me ages just to get out of bed." Now, we are not the only university, not the first, to honour Victoria's outstanding public service. She already holds an honorary doctorate from Anglia Ruskin University, as well as honorary fellowship of Downing College, Cambridge. Last year, too, the London Council of Hammersmith and Fulham conferred Freedom of the Borough on her, together with 9 other residents, in recognition of their groundbreaking work as disabled people's commissioners. It nevertheless seems particularly appropriate that we should recognise her in the University of London, another great national institution that, it seems to me, bears many similarities to the BBC. And here I'm not just thinking of the fact that we both occupy iconic 1930s buildings within a stone's throw of each other in central London, but also of the ways in which our mission as a university also conforms to those Reithian aspirations to inform, educate, and yes, even to entertain, that animate the BBC and that in our time embodies so well. For these reasons, I cannot think of a more suitable candidate for our university to honour with the degree of Doctor of Literature. Vice-Chancellor, it is therefore with great pleasure as well as gratitude that I ask you to confer to this degree, and I present to you Victoria Brignall.
I now call upon Victoria Brignall to make the response.
Vice-Chancellor, Pro-Vice-Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, Pro-Vice-Chancellor, University of London staff, thank you from the bottom of my heart for making me an Honorary Doctor of Literature. It's a real privilege to be at this ceremony today. I never thought I'd be able to say I've been on stage with Samuel West. Many congratulations to all the graduating students of 2025. I wish you all the best in your future careers. I don't feel I've done enough to deserve this award, So I'd like to dedicate it to 3 distinguished disability rights campaigners who've sadly died in the last 5 years. Sian Vasey, Michelin Mason, and Rosalie Wilkins. These women influenced me and many others, and have left a huge legacy. I'm glad to have the chance to pay tribute to them today. At the heart of literature, the humanities, and indeed the programme in our time, is the concept of telling stories. Storytelling is important because it enables us to connect with people. It's through storytelling that we learn about others, learn about the world, and ultimately learn more about ourselves. So today, I'm going to tell you a story. As this year marks the 80th anniversary of VE Day, I'm going to tell you a true story from World War II. I first heard this story 25 years ago, not long after I joined the BBC. One of my first jobs was working as a researcher on a BBC Two documentary series about the Battle of the Atlantic. During World War II, Britain relied on imports of food, ammunition, and oil to keep functioning. But our merchant navy came under frequent attack from Nazi U-boats. Hitler knew that if he cut off Britain's vital supplies, sooner or later we would have to surrender. Churchill once said, "The only thing that ever really frightened me during the war was the U-boat peril." Working in Britain's merchant fleet was dangerous. The merchant navy had the highest casualty rate of any of the forces. On September the 12th, 1942, a British ship, the Laconia, was sailing across the Atlantic. Amongst the merchant navy crew on board were 2 brothers, James and Edward Herity from Liverpool. James, known as Jimmy, was 32 years old. Edward was 22. That night, their ship was torpedoed by U-boat 156. Edward managed to get into a lifeboat, but Jimmy was not so lucky. Due to the way the ship was listing, half the lifeboats were put out of action. Jimmy was one of the men stuck on board. Edward in his lifeboat was close enough to the ship to be able to hear Jimmy call out, "Eddie, don't leave me." Edward's response was to clamber out of the lifeboat and climb back on the ship to be with his brother. When the ship sank, they both died. Hopefully, none of us will ever face the prospect of having to lay down our life for someone we love. But the qualities that Edward displayed that day are qualities that we should use in our everyday lives. Empathy for the needs of others, courage, a dedication to duty, and a willingness to put the interests of other people before our own. We need these qualities at a personal level, in our relationships with family and friends, but also at a national level. This brings me on to a subject close to my heart. We currently have a social care crisis in this country. More than 400,000 people are on the waiting list for social care from their local authority, and demand is growing. Often elderly people having to sell their home to pay for care fees, causing huge distress. 1 in 7 people in hospital are well enough to be discharged but cannot leave because there's no care in place for them. 130,000 posts in social care are unfilled, 3 times the average UK vacancy rate. Let me spell out what it means if we don't have enough social care. It means you might be able to get out of bed, have a shower, get dressed, use the loo, have a hot meal, go out of the house, see friends, or do a job. Social care is vital for disabled people's quality of life. It's not a luxury, it's a fundamental human right. Disabled people will never have full inclusion in society until high-quality social care is available to everyone who needs it. If you have a fully functioning body, then please don't think that social care is something that only affects other people. Anyone at any time can have an accident or develop an illness that means they need social care. One of the great storytellers of our age, Hanif Qureshi, found this out 2 years ago when he had a fall that left him paralysed from the neck down. And most of us will grow old eventually. The social care system is in desperate need of reform. Just as we came together as a country during World War II to defeat the Nazis, just as we came together after the war to establish the NHS, so now in the 21st century, we need to come together to fix the social care system. In order to do this, we need to display the same qualities that Edward Herity showed in 1942. Empathy for the needs of others, courage, dedication to duty, and a willingness to put the needs of other people, the interests of other people, before our own. Reforming social care will be a challenge, but if we all show these qualities, I firmly believe it can be done. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Victoria. I now call upon Professor Sarah Churchwell, Chair of the Public Understanding of the Humanities, to give the oration for Samuel West, recipient of this year's honorary degree.
Vice-Chancellor, in accordance with the Charter, statutes, and ordinances of the University, I present to you for the award of the degree of Doctor of Literature honoris causa, Samuel West. Samuel West is an actor, director, and tireless advocate for the arts, whose distinguished career in the dramatic arts has illuminated the breadth and depth of human experience. Today, we honor not just his prodigious talent on stage and screen, but also his commitment to fostering cultural education, preserving our literary and dramatic heritage, and advocating for the role of the arts in public life. Shakespeare has been a touchstone throughout Samuel West's career. From Hamlet and Richard II to a turn last year as Malvolio, one hailed by the critic Mark Lawson as a part in which West achieves greatness, and directing As You Like It, his deep engagement with Shakespeare's works showcases not only his versatility, but also his lifelong commitment to reinvigorating these classic plays for new audiences. Early in his career, he received critical acclaim for his portrayal of Hamlet at the Royal Shakespeare Company. If you haven't seen it, there are more recent videos on YouTube of his superb delivery of the to be or not to be soliloquy, imbuing those familiar lines with deep clarity and fresh meaning. Indeed, he has given striking form to the words and characters of many other great authors in our tradition: Jane Austen, Charlotte Bronte, E.M. Forster, and Anton Chekhov, to name just a few. He seems drawn to the wiser, wittier, and more humane writers in our tradition, his performances reminding us that classic works are not fixed relics of the past, but living texts, shaped and reshaped with each new reader, new performance, new interpretation. Our mission here at the Institute of English Studies is partly to ensure that literature is not merely studied, but that it is understood, challenged, and safeguarded for future generations. In West's lifelong engagement with our dramatic heritage, we see that mission in action. Samuel West's journey began in a household immersed in storytelling. The son of two esteemed actors, Timothy West and Prunella Scales, he grew up surrounded by language, performance, and a deep respect for the craft of acting. Yet his achievements are unmistakably his own. Over more than 3 decades, since 1989, he has distinguished himself as equally at home in the classics, contemporary drama, television, film, documentary, and audio work. His range as an actor is extraordinary, but all of his performances are marked by precision, great intelligence, and emotional wisdom. Drama is one of the ways we tell each other what it means to be human, and Samuel West's portrayal of complex, often conflicted figures has left an indelible mark. His Leonard Bast in the Oscar-winning Howard's End was widely praised for its emotional intelligence and vulnerability, capturing the struggles of a man caught between aspiration and circumstance, driven to a shameful dishonesty that West makes pitiable rather than sordid. He has played figures of ambition and rigidity, from St. John Rivers in Jane Eyre to the calculating Mr. Elliot in Persuasion, the compromised statesman Sir Anthony Eden in Darkest Hour, and the self-satisfied politician Peter Judd in The Splendid Slow Horses. Indeed, he seems to be discovering something of a sideline in imbuing slightly loathsome characters with sympathetic humanity. On television, more recent audiences know him for his increasingly beloved role as Siegfried Farnen in All Creatures Great and Small. His portrait of the impatient, irritable, yet deeply kind veterinarian, he's also a veteran, but he's a veterinarian, has won the hearts of viewers across the UK and beyond, including, I must say, my own. I am a big fan of this wise, funny, touching show. I think it's rather like settling down after a hard day's work to an intelligent cup of cocoa. Beyond acting, as I've said, he is an accomplished director of 13 plays to date, and also as artistic director of Sheffield Theatres, where he staged productions that were bold, innovative, and deeply humane. His tenure was marked by a commitment to new writing, as well as fresh interpretations of classics, including The Romans in Britain, a bold exploration of imperialism, The Master Builder, and more recently, the acclaimed After Electra. He is also a passionate musician, supporting orchestras, directing operas, and narrating for Last Night at the Proms. West's contribution to the arts extends far beyond his own performances. His advocacy for the arts is urgent, incisive, and unrelenting. As a trustee and former chair of the National Campaign for the Arts, he has long championed investment in arts and culture. Speaking last summer, he declared, "We've got into the habit of thinking that public spending is bad. There's plenty of money. It's just that too much of it is in the Cayman Islands. The arts spread joy and encourage empathy. They're not a luxury, ill health, prejudice, extremism. All these can be helped by the arts." He has continually beat the drum to draw attention to the UK's declining investment in the arts compared to other European nations, noting last year, I won't try to say nations and noting next to each other again, compared to other European nations, noting last year that since 2010, there has been a 6% decrease in arts funding in the UK, which contrasts with increases of 22% in Germany, 25% in France, and an astonishing increase of 70% in Finland. These countries, he said, believe in the power of art to produce joy and drive recovery. He also noted the huge differences that can be made in the arts with millions rather than billions. And just a few weeks ago, responding to the alarming news that the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School was winding down its historic undergraduate course set up in 1946 with the support of Laurence Olivier, he underscored the importance of courses like these in giving students life-changing opportunities, calling them the bedrock of our cultural life. He has also done extensive work in radio and audiobook narration. He has narrated several documentary series, including 5 for the BBC about the Second World War. And his voice alone constitutes a profound contribution to the cultural record, from narrating a history of the world in 100 Objects to voicing Paddington Bear and the beloved Pongo in 101 Dalmatians. As a fan of his on what I'm going to call the late lamented Twitter, I've followed West's advocacy and activism firsthand, and I have been unsurprised by his recent fierce commitment to peace in Gaza. There I came to admire not only his wit and passion for arts, culture, and justice, but also his love of birdwatching, a pursuit that he has explained with the words of Iris Murdoch. He said, "You can be walking along, painting the whole world with your thoughts and sorrows, and then you see a kestrel, and suddenly the world is all kestrel, and you are released." as we celebrate his extraordinary contributions to English language, drama, and culture, it is clear that Samuel West exemplifies the humanistic values at the heart of this institution. His career is a testament to the enduring significance of storytelling, and his advocacy underscores the vital importance of the arts in fostering a just and compassionate society. For the graduates here today, his work offers a powerful example of how creativity, curiosity, and commitment can shape not only a life and a career, but also the world around us. Theater has sometimes been called a rehearsal for life, and Samuel West's career stands as a testament to the profound role that art and education play in enriching human experience. His creative work and commitment also shows us, when we feel bound to the earth, what it might mean to take flight and be released. Graduates, this is the image I would leave you with now, as you too are about to take flight and be released. Vice Chancellor, it is with great pleasure that I ask you to confer this degree, and I present to you Samuel West.
I now call upon Samuel West to make his response.
Follow that. Thank you. That was amazing. Vice-Chancellor, Pro-Vice-Chancellor, staff of the university, graduates, graduands, guest, people at the back. You are now all officially brilliant. I've no idea how I got so jammy as to be invited to your party, but here we are. What a joy. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for this nice hat. And thank you, Sass, for this and for letting me talk to you. It's a huge honour. I'm chuffed. It's immensely moving to stand before this many people who represent so much hard work, so many essay crises and caffeine hangovers. Take a moment to feel your collective power. Right now, you are one of the cleverest rooms in the world. And of course, behind every successful graduate stands an astonished parent. On your children's behalf, thank you. They will never know the sacrifices, etc., etc. Sorry about that, that's just how it is. This isn't in my speech, but I want to remind you, those of you who might remember, and tell you, those that didn't know it, that you're in a building, Senate House, that in The Day of the Triffids, the science fiction book of 1955 by John Wyndham, after a comet strikes and 99% of the world is rendered blind, this building brings together those who can see by sending out a searchlight into the sky at night, a sort of bat signal for the future. And 70 years later, it's still doing it. I like that. These occasions are impossible. I'm supposed to talk to you in ways that are inspiring but not preachy. I'm supposed to be brief, pithy, maybe even amusing. You won't remember any of it, which is a shame, really, because it's real. I've lived it, and some of you haven't yet. I think it's a disease of men in particular to give advice when what is needed is sympathy, or perhaps just silence. But look outside, read this morning's papers. I have to say something. And you have my sympathy. I graduated in 1988 in a world where student loans didn't exist and the maintenance grant still did. Since then, I've come to realize that we're not born into this world. We emerge out of it, like leaves on a tree. Your parents are already bored of you having no conception of what the world was like before your conception, but they were the same. You may have heard of shifting baseline syndrome, where members of each new generation accepts the situation in which they were raised as being normal. It's important that my speech doesn't become 8 minutes of doom scrolling, but I have to tell you, when talking to the generation that represents hope and the future, but also their parents who got us into this mess, it wasn't always like this. You graduate into a digital world that values individuality over community. Many of our collective identities are being abandoned. The institutions that express our sense of nationhood are in decline, whether political parties, trade unions, or nationalized industries. The fabric of institutional life in which we expressed our values has been discarded in favor of individual freedom and acquisitiveness, and it's blinding us to huge injustices. We're in a world where it no longer raises eyebrows to say that the richest 50 Americans own as much wealth as the poorest 50% of Americans. And that gap is getting wider. The trouble with the increasing gap between rich and poor is that it threatens to grow so big that neither party is able any longer to understand the other. The life of the very poor to the very rich is so alien that they simply cannot understand how cutting £5 a week from benefit or closing a library when you can afford to buy books could make a difference. The life of the very rich to the very poor is so alien that they can't see how someone who earns billions doesn't think that billions are enough. Once these two camps hit mutual incomprehension and are no longer able to recognize each other as human, the door is open to real exploitation and hatred. And that's where you, as humanities graduates, come in. Because that alienation isn't just a failure of government or policy, it's a failure of imagination. What is happening is that rampant capitalism is driving wedges between us. And what is at risk is society itself, the connections that make us human. We can and we must use our imaginations to make those connections stronger. At the moment, I look at the threats facing our future, climate change, fascism, increasing inequality, and I trace them back to one thing, as Victoria says, an empathy deficit. That's all it is. Getting into the habit of imagining what it's like for someone else. That is something that you, as arts and humanities graduates, and now professors, are traditionally good at, which is good because you're getting rarer. The crisis in universities, and the crisis in the humanities in particular, is going to hit this need for empathy and critical thinking hard. Though tuition fees have made the university experience more transactional, there is still a belief, particularly here, that courses shouldn't be comfortable. They should occasionally or often challenge students. The pleasure of the deep dive set against the superficial buzz of skimming the surface. I'm, as you've heard, a birdwatcher with a particular interest in migration. When a bird migrates, it stops off at many places along its route, places where it feeds and grows. Every single one of these stopping off points is important. All of them have to be protected. If one is concreted over, the path is broken. Some birds don't arrive at their destination. We can't say whether the end of modern languages in Aberdeen, dance in Bedford, or English at Canterbury will be the concrete that stops a particular graduate from feeding and growing, but that's just ABC in a whole alphabet of humanities subjects that are cut or threatened. Meanwhile, English councils, in the face of huge central government cuts to their grants, have more than halved culture spending since 2010. All the more reason to celebrate those graduating today. We must trumpet the economic benefits of thriving humanities sector, but we must also speak fluent human and talk of civic pride, of happiness, of the intellectual thrill, the camaraderie that these courses give us. Damn those successive Tory education ministers who have derided the career prospects of arts graduates. We aren't just here to work our asses off for 50 years and then die. So that's the tree from which you emerged. The roots are our common humanity. If you'll excuse a terrible pun, and that debased currency is largely what I deal in nowadays, when you leave here, be more tree. Honour the earth you came from and to which you will return. The world has tides, shudders, consequences. Some of those shudders and consequences brought you here. The world has seasons and species and millions of things that aren't you. Try and tune into them. Try to keep one eye turned outward Go out and watch some birds. You're not just a shopping machine. The most important thing about you is not your spending habits, though modern capitalism will make you feel that it is. And keep fighting. Click the John Lewis website shut and heed the words of that other John Lewis, civil rights activist and congressman. Get in good trouble. Necessary trouble. These are his 5 rules for activism. Vote, always. Speak truth to power. And while you're at it, ask it Tony Benn's 5 questions to safeguard democracy. What power have you got? Where did you get it from? In whose interests do you exercise it? To whom are you accountable? And how do we get rid of you? Try asking these even in your head to Elon Musk, and you'll realize what deep trouble we're in. Get to the table. And like Shirley Chisholm says, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. Remember, none of you is too young to make a difference. And most importantly, never give up. Like Victoria says, you have to be tenacious. I know that I'm talking to people here who are challenging injustice in ways I could only dream of when I was a student. Good for you. Onward. Nearly finished. What else have I learned? Okay, these are my fridge magnets. Keep off social media, even if it's the subject of your PhD. Or at least, while you're there and organising demonstrations, try not to compare yourself to other people on Instagram. Remember, you're watching their highlights and comparing them to your blooper reel. Everyone has private crises. Nobody has a perfect relationship. Everyone's life is boring occasionally. Boring's fine. Boring's fun some of the time. Boring's real. Be an asset to the collective. Democracy needs you to cheerlead for it. Compared to the toxic glamour of strongman politics from our new Cheeto Jesus, who calls real estate what Palestinians call home, compared to getting your news from TikTok, real democracy is slow. Solidarity, equality, fairness. Sounds dull. Well, it ain't. Being part of something bigger than the sum of its parts is the greatest exhilaration I have ever known. Paying back your student loan isn't the most important thing in the world. There are so many exciting subjects on display here. If you haven't yet discovered a passion, try to stay afloat until you do. Don't just grab the first smart-suited arm that offers you cash. Failure is the price of success. Fail again, fail better. Optimism is obligatory. Pessimism is just bad taste. And finally, and most importantly for practicing your empathy, there's no them and us. It's us and us and us. It's all us. So, good luck. I hope we work together one day. And congratulations from the past participle stem of congratulatory, wish joy. I want to keep this simple. In words of one syllable, I wish you joy. Thank you. Cheers. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, that now concludes the presentation of the honorary degrees and the awarding of degrees for the 2025 graduation ceremony for the School of Advanced Study here at the University of London. I now call upon Vice-Chancellor Professor Wendy Thompson for her concluding remarks.
Being able to attend these events and meet some of the outstanding people who we honor at them, the graduates as well as our honorary graduates, is one of the highlights of my job. So it's been a delight for me, and I hope it's been a pleasure for you. So deans, distinguished guests, graduates, friends, and family, again, it gives me great pleasure to thank you all for attending today. And well done to all of our graduates. Today is a day to reflect on your journey to this point and to think about the road ahead. It's also my great pleasure to welcome you into the global community of graduates of the University of London. We have over 500,000 living alumni around the world. And we like people who graduate from the University of London to get a sense of being part of that global community, and we believe a force for good. So today does not signal the end of your connection with the school or with the university, I hope. Our graduates play an integral role in our unique global network and are united as part of a community of hundreds of thousands of alumni living and working all over the world. So I thank all of you graduating today for your contribution to the life of the University of London. We take enormous pride in your achievements, those so far and indeed those to come. Please do keep in touch as you embark on the next steps in your journey. And that concludes the ceremony. Please, will you all rise for the singing of the national anthem.
Ask you to just stay here for a few more minutes. We're going to take your photos. Let your guests go and get their refreshments over in a few more minutes. I'll call you by your